I was 8 years into what I thought was a rock-solid marriage when my wife Amanda dropped a bomb that shattered everything. We had built a comfortable life in Seattle. I was a software developer. She had just gotten a big promotion at her marketing firm. But lately, things were different. She was distant, critical, working late. That night, after another argument where I just wanted to reconnect, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Plenty of men want me, Charlie. I don't need to put up with this. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button, because trust me, what happened after I walked out that door changed everything." I grew up in Portland, surrounded by the Pacific Northwest's natural beauty. After college, I moved to Seattle for a promising tech job. The city's vibrant energy and opportunities in the tech industry felt like the perfect place to build my career. I spent my first few years focused on establishing myself professionally, exploring hiking trails on weekends and building friendships with colleagues who shared similar interests. I met Amanda at my coworker's housewarming party. She was standing by the window commenting on the view of the Space Needle. Something about her confident smile and the way she spoke passionately about her marketing projects caught my attention immediately. When she mentioned her love for hiking, I knew I had to ask for her number. Our first date was a trek through Discovery Park, where conversation flowed as easily as the trail before us. Our early relationship was filled with weekend adventures. We explored hidden waterfalls, tried every coffee shop in the city, and supported each other through career challenges. When Amanda struggled with a difficult boss, I encouraged her to apply for a position at a more prestigious firm. When I doubted my coding abilities after a failed project, she stayed up late helping me regain my confidence. After 2 years of dating, I proposed during a sunrise hike at Mount Rainier. The way her eyes lit up with the dawn when she said yes is something I'll never forget. We got married at her parents' lake house, a small ceremony with just 30 guests. Standing there watching Amanda walk toward me in her simple white dress, I felt certain about our future together. The first 5 years of marriage were everything I'd hoped for. We bought our first home, a cozy 2-bedroom house with a small garden in a neighborhood not too far from downtown. We established our careers, created traditions like Sunday brunch at our favorite local diner, and started planning for our future. We talked about having kids in a year or two, once Amanda felt secure in her career trajectory. Everything changed when Amanda received a promotion to marketing director at her firm. I was incredibly proud of her. We celebrated with an expensive bottle of champagne and talked excitedly about her new responsibilities. The promotion came with a significant salary increase, which meant more financial freedom for both of us. What I didn't anticipate was how much it would change our relationship. The changes were gradual at first. Amanda started working later, often coming home after I was already in bed. She began talking about new colleagues and clients, dropping names of executives and creative directors I'd never heard of. Weekend hikes were replaced with networking events and client dinners. When I asked if I could join, she would say they were work functions and that I'd be bored. I tried everything to reconnect with her. I planned special date nights, cooking her favorite meals from scratch. I surprised her with tickets to see her favorite band. I even took a week off work to repaint our bedroom the exact shade of blue she'd been wanting. But my efforts seemed to irritate her more than please her. "You don't need to try so hard, Charlie," she would say with a sigh. The tension between us grew as Amanda began criticizing aspects of my life she'd never had issues with before. My career choices became a target. "Don't you want to be more ambitious?" she asked one night after describing her company's aggressive growth plans. "Jason just got promoted to senior developer at his company. Have you thought about applying for something like that?" Amanda's new social circle consisted mainly of executives and creative professionals who frequented trendy restaurants and exclusive clubs. The few times I attended events with her, I felt completely out of place. While I wore my best button-down shirt and jeans, everyone else seemed dressed for a fashion magazine. They talked about vacation homes and luxury brands, while I struggled to contribute to the conversation. I started noticing Amanda being secretive with her phone. She changed her password, which she'd freely shared with me before. She would step outside or into another room to take calls. When I asked casual questions about her day, her answers became vague and dismissive. Just the usual work stuff. Nothing interesting. Our disconnect grew to the point where we were sleeping in separate rooms. Amanda claimed my snoring kept her awake, but I suspected she simply wanted space away from me. Our conversations became limited to household logistics and schedules. The warmth and intimacy that had defined our relationship was replaced by cold civility. I began doubting myself, wondering if I was being paranoid or if something was genuinely wrong. I tried talking to Amanda about my concerns, but she dismissed them as insecurity. "You're imagining things, Charlie. I'm just busy with work. Not everything is about you." Amanda's coldness became more pronounced as she started making subtle comparisons between me and her coworkers. Thomas took the whole marketing team to Cabo for closing that deal with Northwest Airlines. That's the kind of leadership that gets noticed. The implications were clear, and each comparison chipped away at my self-esteem. My longtime friend Jake was the first to voice concerns about Amanda's behavior. Over beers one evening, he hesitantly mentioned seeing Amanda at a restaurant downtown with a group of colleagues. "She seemed different, Charlie. The way she was laughing, touching this guy's arm. I don't know, man. She didn't even notice me there. Just thought you should know." His words confirmed the fears I had been trying to ignore. Something was very wrong in my marriage, and I couldn't pretend anymore that it was just a rough patch we would eventually overcome. Our 8th anniversary should have been a celebration of our life together. Instead, it became the night that ended everything. I spent the afternoon preparing an elaborate dinner, recreating the meal from our first dating anniversary. Seared scallops risotto with wild mushrooms and chocolate soufflé for dessert. I set the table with our wedding china, lit candles, and even bought fresh flowers. By 8:30 p.m., the food was getting cold, and Amanda still wasn't home. She hadn't responded to my texts, asking when she'd arrive. At 9:15 p.m., I heard her key in the door. She walked in looking surprised by the elaborate setup. "What's all this?" she asked, placing her designer bag on the counter. "It's our anniversary," I said quietly, trying to hide my disappointment. Amanda's eyes widened slightly. "Right. I got caught up with the Johnson account. You should have reminded me this morning." There was no apology, no attempt to salvage the evening. She simply sat down, looked at the cold food, and picked at it without enthusiasm. I watched her, feeling a distance between us that seemed impossible to bridge. "Do you even want to be married to me anymore?" I finally asked the question that had been burning inside me for months. "Don't start, Charlie. I'm exhausted." She pushed her plate away. "I think that's a fair question," I persisted. "You're never home. When you are, you're distant. We barely talk anymore. I feel like I'm living with a stranger." Amanda's expression hardened. "You're being needy. I'm building a career." "Did you expect me to stay the same person forever?" "I expected us to grow together, not apart," I replied. "I expected basic respect, communication, love." The argument escalated when Amanda got up to leave the room, and I noticed she'd left her laptop open on the counter. A message notification appeared on the screen from someone named Thomas. The preview showed enough for my heart to sink. "Tonight was amazing. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow." "Who's Thomas?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the turmoil inside. Amanda whirled around, her face flushing with anger when she saw what I was looking at. "Are you spying on me now?" "I didn't have to spy. It's right there on your screen." I felt a strange calmness wash over me, the kind that comes when your worst fears are confirmed. "Is he the reason you forgot our anniversary? You have no right to invade my privacy," she shouted, slamming the laptop closed. "And you have no right to betray our marriage," I countered. "Just tell me the truth, Amanda. Are you having an affair?" Instead of answering, she went on the offensive. "This is exactly why I need space from you, Charlie. You're suffocating me with your suspicions and your neediness. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to come home to this interrogation?" That's when she said it, the words that would change everything. "Plenty of men want me, Charlie. I don't need to put up with this." Time seemed to stop in that moment. The woman standing before me was unrecognizable from the person I had fallen in love with. In her eyes, I saw not just anger but a cold dismissal of everything we had built together. "If that's how you really feel," I said slowly, "then they can have you." I walked upstairs to our bedroom and pulled out a suitcase. I packed essential items, moving with mechanical precision. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, important document. Amanda followed me upstairs, her anger giving way to surprise. "What are you doing?" she asked, watching me pack. "Exactly what you've been wanting me to do. I'm giving you space." I continued packing, not looking at her. Her tone suddenly changed. "Charlie, stop. I didn't mean what I said. I was just angry." "No, Amanda. For once I think you were being honest." I zipped up the suitcase and finally looked at her. "The problem isn't that other men want you. It's that you want them back. And I deserve better than that. As I carried my suitcase downstairs, Amanda followed, her previous confidence crumbling. "You can't just leave. Where are you going to go? This is your home too." "Not anymore," I said, picking up my car keys. "I'll have my lawyer contact you about next steps." The drive to Jake's place was a blur. I pulled over twice when tears made it impossible to see the road. Everything I thought I knew about my life had been upended in a single evening. 8 years of marriage dissolved by 7 cruel words. Jake opened his door, took one look at me with my suitcase, and simply said, "Guest room's ready. Beer's in the fridge." No questions, no judgment, just the support of a true friend when I needed it most. That first night away from home, I lay awake staring at the ceiling in Jake's spare room. My phone buzzed repeatedly with texts and calls from Amanda, alternating between angry accusations and tearful pleas. After reading the first few, I turned off my phone. I needed space to think, to process the shock of how quickly everything had fallen apart. The morning after I left, I contacted Lisa Thompson, a divorce attorney, recommended by a colleague who had gone through a similar situation. She advised me to file for legal separation immediately, while I decided whether to proceed with divorce. "It protects your finances and establishes a clear timeline," she explained. "And given what you've told me about your wife's behavior, documentation is going to be important." I found a small 1-bedroom apartment downtown, furnished it minimally with just a bed, couch, desk, and basic kitchen supplies. The simplicity of my new living situation was strangely comforting. No reminders of Amanda, no spaces filled with memories of our life together. Just clean, empty spaces where I could begin rebuilding. Work became my refuge. I volunteered for additional projects, stayed late coding, and accepted weekend assignments that others avoided. My supervisor noticed my increased productivity and dedication, despite my personal turmoil. "Whatever's driving you, Charlie, keep it up," he said, after I successfully completed a challenging database migration ahead of schedule. Amanda's initial reaction to my departure was a flood of text messages ranging from apologetic to accusatory. When I didn't respond, she showed up at my workplace. I was in a meeting when the receptionist called to tell me my wife was in the lobby, refusing to leave until she spoke with me. I stepped out briefly, only to inform her that all communication needed to go through our lawyers. "You can't just cut me off like this," she said, tears streaming down her face. "We need to talk about this like adults." "We're past that point," I replied calmly. "You made your feelings clear. I'm respecting your wishes." Setting boundaries with Amanda was the hardest and most necessary step in my healing process. Each time she tried to contact me directly, I redirected her to my attorney. It wasn't about punishing her, but about protecting myself from the emotional manipulation I now recognized as a pattern in our relationship. The truth about Amanda's affair with Thomas, her boss, came from an unexpected source. Jill, a graphic designer at Amanda's company who I'd met at several company events, reached out to me through LinkedIn. "I thought you should know the truth," her message read. "Amanda and Thomas have been seeing each other for at least 4 months. Everyone at the office knows. I'm sorry you found out this way." The confirmation hurt, but also provided clarity. The timeline matched exactly with the changes in Amanda's behavior. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden criticism of my career choices all coincided with the beginning of her affair. I started seeing Dr. Marshall, a therapist specializing in divorce recovery. Our weekly sessions helped me process not just the end of my marriage, but the patterns that had led to its dissolution. "You ignored red flags because you wanted to believe in the relationship," he pointed out. "That speaks to your commitment, but also to a tendency to prioritize others' happiness over your own well-being." Gradually, I developed new routines that helped me reclaim my sense of self. I joined a weekend hiking club, rediscovering my love for the outdoors that had taken a back seat during the last years of my marriage. I reconnected with old friends who had drifted away during my relationship with Amanda. I started cooking again, experimenting with recipes for one, and finding satisfaction in taking care of myself. Through mutual friends, I learned that Amanda was spreading rumors about me, claiming I had abandoned her without warning that I was having a midlife crisis. I chose not to defend myself or correct these narratives. "People who truly know you won't believe it," Jake assured me. "And those who believe it, without hearing your side, aren't worth your energy." The financial separation was complicated but necessary. Our house investment accounts, and even our credit card points, needed to be divided. Despite Amanda's attempts to claim more than her fair share, I insisted on being equitable. "Take the high road," my attorney advised. "It will serve you better in the long run." While I was quietly rebuilding my life, Amanda's social media portrayed a very different reality. Photos of exclusive parties, weekend trips to wine country, and lavish dinners with Thomas filled her Instagram feed. She seemed determined to show the world and perhaps herself that she was thriving without me. I focused instead on my personal growth, not on revenge or comparison. I started reading books I'd always wanted to explore, took an evening class in photography, and even trained for a half marathon. Each small accomplishment helped rebuild my confidence and sense of identity outside of my marriage. 3 months after our separation, I felt stronger and more independent than I had in years. The apartment that had initially felt like a temporary shelter now felt like home. I had established new friendships through the hiking club and reconnected with coworkers outside of the office. For the first time since leaving, I felt genuine happiness, not just the absence of pain. I met Sarah at a hiking club outing to Mount C. She was a pediatric nurse with an easy laugh and a refreshing directness. After several group hikes where we naturally gravitated toward each other, I asked her for coffee. Our first date was casual and pressure-free, just two adults enjoying conversation. It was too soon for anything serious, but the simple pleasure of connecting with someone new was healing in itself. Amanda discovered I was dating through social media when a hiking club member posted a group photo where Sarah and I were standing close together. Within hours, Amanda called me for the first time in months. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was tearful. "I miss you, Charlie. I made a mistake. Can we please talk?" Coincidentally, Amanda's professional life was unraveling just as mine was improving. A round of layoffs hit her company, with Thomas being one of the first to go. Industry rumors suggested inappropriate workplace relationships were behind his sudden departure. Amanda, now tainted by association, found her once promising career trajectory suddenly stalled. My own professional life took a positive turn when I received a promotion to senior developer along with a significant raise. The focus I had channeled into my work during the painful months after separation had paid off. My team lead specifically mentioned my ability to remain detail-oriented and innovative, even during challenging personal circumstances. As Amanda's professional and romantic situation deteriorated, her attempts to contact me grew more desperate. Emails, voicemails, even letters to my apartment pleaded for a second chance. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," one message said. "I threw away the only man who ever truly loved me for who I am." I maintained my silence, not out of cruelty, but self-preservation. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too profound to risk reopening that chapter of my life. 6 months after walking out of our house, my life had transformed in ways I could never have anticipated. My apartment now felt truly mine, decorated with photographs from hiking trips and artwork from local artists. I had received another promotion at work, leading a small team developing a promising new application. My friendship with Sarah had deepened into a relationship built on mutual respect and honest communication. Then came the phone call that threatened to disrupt my hard-won peace. Amanda's number appeared on my phone on a Sunday evening. After months of ignoring her attempts to contact me, something made me answer. "Charlie." Her voice was small, fragile. "Thank you for picking up. I wasn't sure you ever would again." "What do you need, Amanda?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "I need to see you. Please. Just once." She was crying now. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking anyway." Against my better judgment, and the advice of both my therapist and attorney, I agreed to a brief meeting at a coffee shop near my office. When Amanda arrived, I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, confident woman who had dismissed our marriage so callously. In her place was someone whose appearance reflected inner turmoil: hair pulled back carelessly, minimal makeup, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer outfits. "Thomas dumped me 2 weeks after he was fired," she said, without preamble, staring into her untouched coffee. "All those men who supposedly wanted me. They wanted the marketing director with connections, not the unemployed woman with a damaged reputation." I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, just a profound sadness for what we had both lost. "I'm sorry things didn't work out the way you hoped," I said sincerely. "I was stupid, Charlie. So incredibly stupid." She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "No one loves me like you did. No one ever will." "Amanda," I said gently, "what we had is gone. You made choices that destroyed it. I've made choices to move on. I can change," she pleaded. "I am changing. I'm in therapy now. I quit that toxic job. I've been trying to make amends with your parents with our friends." Her words stirred an uncomfortable conflict within me. Part of me, the part that had loved her for nearly a decade, wanted to believe her. Another part, the one that had grown stronger through pain, recognized the pattern of manipulation. Over the following weeks, Amanda made determined efforts to recreate our past connection. She sent photographs from our early dating years, showed up at the coffee shop where we used to spend Sunday mornings, even left a gift basket with all my favorite snacks at my apartment door. "Do you think people can really change?" I asked Jake over beers one evening, genuinely torn about how to handle Amanda's persistence. "People can change," he said thoughtfully, "but usually only when they've hit rock bottom and have no choice. The question is, do you want to be the safety net that prevents her from actually doing the hard work?" Amanda's efforts to prove she'd changed went beyond superficial gestures. She started therapy twice weekly, voluntarily resigned from her position at the company where the affair had happened, and made sincere attempts to rebuild bridges with people she'd hurt, including my family. My mother confirmed that Amanda had called her taking full responsibility for hurting me without asking for sympathy or intervention. Despite these signs of genuine remorse, I remained hesitant. The betrayal had been too profound, the hurt too deep to simply forgive and forget. "Trust is like paper," Dr. Marshall had told me in one of our sessions. "Once crumpled, it can never be perfectly smooth again." After weeks of persistent requests, I agreed to meet Amanda for coffee again. It was the first civil, honest conversation we'd had in over a year. "I know saying sorry isn't enough," she said, meeting my eyes directly. "What I did was unforgivable. I got caught up in status and attention and threw away the most real thing in my life. I'm not asking you to take me back. I just want you to know that I understand now what I lost." I appreciated her sincerity, but needed to express my truth as well. "When you said those men wanted you, it wasn't just about the affair. It was about how little you valued what we built together. How easily you could dismiss 8 years because something newer, shinier came along." Amanda nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I will regret that for the rest of my life." She hesitated before continuing. "Is there any chance, Charlie? Any chance at all that we could try again? Start over, maybe I'll do whatever it takes." I took a deep breath, finally certain of my answer. The person I am now, the person I've become because of this pain, needs to move forward, not backward. "I wish you healing, Amanda. I wish you growth, but I can't be part of that journey." Her face crumpled as the finality of my words sank in. "I really have lost you forever, haven't I?" "You haven't lost me," I said gently. "You've lost who I was. And I've found who I'm meant to be." 2 weeks later, I met with my attorney to sign the final divorce papers. Amanda had agreed to all terms without contest, a final acknowledgement of responsibility that I hadn't expected but appreciated. As I signed my name on the last page, I felt not sadness but a profound sense of closure. 1 year after walking out of my home and marriage, I stood at a viewpoint on Mount Rainier, the same spot where I had proposed to Amanda years earlier. This time I was there with Sarah, whose patient understanding had helped heal wounds I thought would never close. Our relationship had progressed slowly, built on a foundation of honesty and respect that I now recognized as essential. My professional life had flourished in ways I couldn't have imagined during those dark early days. The promotion to senior developer had been followed by an opportunity to lead a new project team, challenging me to grow both technically and as a leader. I ran into Amanda at a grocery store 6 months after our divorce was finalized. She looked healthier than when I'd last seen her, more at peace. She had found a job at a smaller marketing agency and moved into a modest apartment not far from our old neighborhood. Our conversation was brief, but cordial, two people acknowledging a shared past without rancor. What had seemed like a catastrophe the night she told me plenty of men wanted her had become the catalyst for the most significant growth of my life. Walking away from someone who didn't value me had been the first step toward truly valuing myself. Through mutual friends, I heard that Amanda was genuinely working on herself, continuing therapy, and even volunteering at a crisis center for women. I felt no resentment hearing this news, only hope that she too was finding her way toward a more authentic life. During a visit to my parents, we had a long conversation about forgiveness and moving forward. "You seem happier now than you've been in years," my father observed. "Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the best outcomes." A few weeks after that visit, I received a handwritten letter from Amanda. Unlike her previous attempts to reconnect, this one asked for nothing. It simply expressed gratitude for the lessons our relationship had taught her and wished me happiness in my new life. I chose not to respond. Some chapters need to stay closed even when the anger is gone. My relationship with Sarah continued to develop naturally without the pressure or comparison to past relationships. We enjoyed hiking together, trying new restaurants, and quiet evenings, discussing books, or planning future adventures. What I valued most was how we communicated, addressing concerns directly before they could fester into resentment. In therapy, I worked on recognizing the red flags I had ignored in my marriage, the small compromises that had gradually eroded my sense of self-worth. I learned to trust my instincts to recognize when something felt wrong instead of dismissing my own feelings. The day my divorce was finalized, I felt relief rather than sadness. It represented not an ending but a beginning, permission to fully embrace the life I was creating. I celebrated quietly that evening with Jake and a few close friends who had supported me through the darkest times. My approach to relationships had fundamentally changed. I now valued actions over words, consistency over grand gestures. I understood that love should add to your life, not diminish it, should make you more yourself rather than less. The wisdom I gained through this painful journey was worth every difficult moment. I learned that self-respect is not selfish but essential, that boundaries are not walls but necessary foundations for healthy relationships. Most importantly, I discovered that walking away from someone who doesn't truly value you is not giving up but standing up for yourself. The moment I decided I deserved better, my entire life changed. I became stronger, wiser, and genuinely happier than I had been even during the good years of my marriage. I found confidence, not in someone else's validation, but in my own resilience and growth. Walking away from Amanda was the best decision I ever made, not because it punished her, but because it freed me. It allowed me to discover what I truly wanted and needed in life, to build relationships based on mutual respect, rather than dependence or obligation. Sometimes the greatest love you can find is the love and respect you give yourself. That's what I would tell anyone facing a similar crossroads. Trust yourself enough to walk away from anything that dims your light, even when it's scary, even when it hurts. The life waiting on the other side of that decision might be better than anything you could imagine. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that ultimately led to unexpected growth in your life? Share your story in the comments below. If my journey resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and personal transformation. Thank you for listening, and remember that your worth is not determined by someone else's ability to see it.